Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Isaac here. Isaac, you're one of the most important and impactful people in the world of toys. I would say, just you've been so innovative in that space with the Bratz doll. No one really thought you could actually have something, I think, different than what Barbie was, but also pave out its own niche and be successful, and in many ways even more successful. And you did this again and again with different iterations with Lala Loopsy, and you've been able to, really come and build up something from immigrating without much. I think even at one point making like $1.65 an hour as a dishwasher to then building an incredible empire in the toy space and making toys that everybody knows and loves. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure if I am, whatever you called me, in the toy business. I'm just a simple toy man. My success goes back, frankly, to my childhood. And, my father went bankrupt when I was, I think, about 4 or 5 years old. We moved to the slums of Tehran, where we had no running water, no electricity. And then eventually he got a shop, and I was working at his shop since 9 years old and doing a lot of things, especially in Iran when I used to go, for example, to bazaar in Iran to buy fabric, etc., for the shop. So I learned from an early age that to work hard to get. And this was my learning ground, the bazaars of Tehran, my father's shop, etc. So, and frankly, not to give up. So that was the start. In 1971, I was desperate to make something better for my life. And I had a big, big dream. And I had just watched a movie called Easy Rider with Peter Fonda in the theaters. And I started dreaming about America, like most immigrants do, frankly, at that young age. So I applied to go to university here. I got accepted to the University of Missouri in Rolla in civil engineering, and I got on a plane and came to USA, came to Los Angeles. And when I got to Los Angeles, unlike what I saw on Easy Rider, there were not a whole bunch of blonde girls to come to the airport to greet me with my olive skin and afro. So it was an awakening. And basically, I don't want to bore you, but after about 30 days, I came with $753 and a yellow blanket, which still hangs at MGA headquarters. So after about 30 days, I had 25 quarters left in my pocket after I paid for apartment, deposit, etc., etc. And I started to panic. And frankly, I was a kid. I was 17. If I had money to buy a ticket to go back to Iran, I would have, but I didn't. So I started looking for job. And one day I walked 11 miles, going to every 7-Eleven, every restaurant, every coffee shop looking for a job, until I got to a place called Spire's Coffee Shop, which is still there. And it was about 6:30 p.m. and it was getting dark. And asked them for a job, and they said, "Sorry, we don't have anything." So I turned around. I was hungry. I was thirsty. And I didn't want to spend the 25 quarters I have. I started walking back towards my house in Inglewood, my apartment in Inglewood. And one guy who was at the coffee shop, his name was Mo, put his hand on my shoulder and asked me in Farsi if I'm Persian. And I said, yes. And he said, "Are you hungry?" And I said, yes. I started crying. And he says, come back here. He fed me liver and onion, which I still love and go. That was the best meal I had. And gave me a cup of coffee and gave me a job as a dishwasher working the graveyard shift at $1.65 an hour. So that was for me the break that I needed to get in America. And, I went to school and worked in the restaurant business until I graduated. And in 1979, after I graduated in 1978 with civil engineering, uh, and I never worked as a civil engineer. I had bigger dreams. So I got it. I started a company called Surprise Gift Wagon and sold basically some giftware that I would import from Korea by mail order. And if I didn't have ADHD and would have stuck with Surprise Gift Wagon, probably I would have been the next Jeff Bezos or Amazon, because that's when I started in the mail order. But I didn't have a patient. Back then, you had to wait, put an ad in the magazines, wait for a month or 2 months for the checks to arrive. So it wasn't like what Jeff did with Amazon, that was immediate. So that was the start of my business. Then I used that import-export experience and started importing consumer electronics. And I grew that business to about $70 million back then, which was a lot of money. And then, I was in Japan and saw that, before that, Atari had come to America, and I mean, Atari was in America in video games, and they failed. So a company called Nintendo took that business, made it better. And I saw when I was in Osaka that Nintendo was doing, basically, they became king of video game business with NES, Nintendo Entertainment Center. And I knew that Nintendo used to make a product called Game & Watch. So I took the bullet train and I went to their headquarters. And I sat there all day until they gave me the rights to distribute Nintendo Game & Watch in America. I was very persistent. And I brought that product. I did a division called Micro Games of America. I changed the packaging. And that's how I got into toy business. And, and I learned a very, very hard lesson. The first year we did, I think, about $23 million in sales and made 32% profit, which was much higher than consumer electronic distribution at 8 to 10% max. But the next year, I had so much Nintendo Game & Watch, and the interest rates were, I think, at 18, 19% at the time. Jimmy Carter was, I believe, at that time in the office. And nobody wanted the Nintendo Game & Watch I had, and I was stuck with $10 million of Nintendo Game & Watch inventory, and I was about to go bankrupt. So I learned from that lesson. I liquidated that inventory, but I learned from that lesson that that children are fickle and they change their mind at any moment. Any moment. So that was a great, great lesson for me, and basically made me paranoid. And I'm a big believer in Andy Grove of Intel, who passed away, and he mentored me actually for 2-3 days. That only the paranoid survive. So I started getting licenses for Pac-Man, Star Wars, etc., and making my own handheld games and selling it. And then, that went on. That company was called Micro Games of America. And I think in 1995, 96, an inventor showed me a doll called Singing Bouncy Baby, which you bounced on your arm and it sang Bouncy, Bouncy Baby, me, one syllable at a time. And so I thought this was interesting, but I'd never made a doll before. So the inventor said, I told him I've never made a doll before. He says, I help you through it. So I took that prototype that he had to Hong Kong, and I set with 2, 3 doll maker factories. And I said, if you sell this to me at 625, I'll buy 250,000 pieces. So 2 companies said they make it at 625, and I placed the order and I started selling the product. I used to do everything myself back, and everybody said yes except Walmart. And the Walmart buyer's objection was that my company's name is Microgames of America. Nobody will buy a doll from Microgames of America. So I told him, his name was Ron Stover, if that's your only objection, I will change the name to MGA. And he laughed and he says, oh, you're quick. Okay, I'll buy it. We sold 1.1 million pieces of that doll, and it went on to become Family Fun Toy of the Year. And that's how we got into toy business. But you would think that it's easy, and it's not easy. Toy business, I call it fondly, legalized gambling. And for every success story, like Singing Bouncy Baby, I just told you, there are over thousands of failures. So, and to date, every year we make about 100, 120 different products. And out of those, only very few, maybe 4 or 5, take off. We lose money on the rest of it. But hopefully the money we make on the successful one pays for all the failures. So it's not that, everybody looks and says, oh my God, MGA is so successful. They did Bratz, they did LO Surprise, they did Miniverse. They only look at the successes, but underneath there are thousands of failures that nobody looks at. And but so we have been lucky with having a few very major hits. We are the only toy company, I'm proud to say, I'm proud of my team, that over the past 45 years has come up with a lot of brands from zero up. And out of those, I think about 13 of them have gone to do between $100 million to $10 billion in sales. And again, for each one of those, there has been hundreds and hundreds of failures. So toy business is not for weak of heart. And frankly, if I didn't have the experience from my upbringing in Iran and basically trying to survive, I would have never stayed in the toy business. So that's what happened. And I like challenges. I think in 2000, Barbie had 98% market share and shelf space at retail, and they had never innovated. So I wanted my team to come up with something to go after Barbie that appeals to all races and genders, etc., not just to white people. So they showed me a whole bunch of things that were basically, frankly, a copy, a knockoff of Barbie, and I rejected them. And in September, I believe September 2000, finally a guy named Carl Bryan showed me some drawings for what later on went to become Bratz. And originally I thought, oh my God, these have big head, they look like aliens, who will buy it? Luckily, my daughter Jasmine, who at the time was about 10 or 11, was in my office. I used to take my kids to office in during the summer, and she was there, and she said to me, oh, Dad, that's cool. So we took a big risk with Bratz, and we went and brought it to the market in 2001. And at the beginning, it did not succeed. it did not succeed, and frankly, could have put MGA out of business. I remember in 2001, in October, November 2001, Toys R Us canceled a $6 million order for Bratz. And I said, that's it. That's a nail in the coffin. I'm out of business. I got to go back to wait tables with now uh, 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 3 kids in tow. So I took another risk, and entrepreneurs have to take risks. So I took another risk and took a second mortgage on my house without telling my wife. And because she would have said no. She would have said no, and put all that money in TV advertising on Bratz. So I went for and doubled the GRP, the advertising budget that we had. And Bratz took off because of that marketing. And that's what happened. That $6 million order that was canceled, we brought it to USA and sold it to Toys R Us at 25% more that they had originally bought it because of the law of supply and demand. And that gave me the money to go pay off the loan before my wife will cut my head. So that's how it happened. And then, the rest, a lot of this is in, you can look it up on Google. We were in major litigation over 10 years with Mattel because they were the biggest bully in the schoolyard. And they saw Bratz as a big competition against Barbie. And they had this stated goal of litigating MGA to death. And of course, I was persistent. I fought with them to the end, and we won. So then after that, they damaged us. For sure they did damage us, but they didn't kill us. So what doesn't kill you probably make you stronger. And then we started innovating again. So we came up with Lalaloopsy, as you mentioned, which was a big hit. But then, people talk about Lalaloopsy and how it was a big hit. They don't talk about product called Commando Bot or My Dream Baby, which were two toys were ahead of their time at the time, had voice recognition that absolutely bombed at retail. They just So they don't talk about that. They only talk about the success. As they say in toy business or any business, success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. And we use that experience. We do a lot of research now when we come up with the product. And even with all the research and experience, we don't always call it right. Because kids change their mind and their taste all the time. So, and now the next biggest hit we have in the market is called Miniverse. Make It, where you can make miniature version of a lot of different things and collect them. And kids and adults are buying them. And we call this in the toy business Kidults, which is the fastest and biggest growing segment of the toy business, because adults have a lot more money to spend than kids do. So that's the story. I'm now 70 years old. I've been doing this for 46 years. I think I'm the oldest fart in the toy business, still alive. But I still love what I do. I'm passionate about kids. I love kids. And I love toys because as a child I didn't have a toy. And now with 3 grandchildren and 2 more on the way, I still am in love with children, but I still work 12, 14 hours a day. I take vitamin B6 and B12 and all kind of vitamins to keep me going. And I meditate and I exercise to keep going. So I love it. And my my inspiration, I mean, my goal is when I'm gone that this company is still here and growing and takes care of children and children imagination and good health. And my legacy stands when I'm gone. So that was a 25 cents story.
So, Isaac, what goes into like making a toy, like a great toy, from like the ideation of it being innovative to the marketing to getting it out? Like, what's kind of the process that really generally works? Is there one?
Yeah, there is. I think every toy, frankly, has to start with a story. If you don't have a story, you have nothing. So you got to really, uh, as an adult, bring yourself down to think and act like a 4-year-old, 6-year-old kid and see life and story and toy through their lens, not yours. And that is what we do every day. We like to be original. There is a lot of copycat and knockoffs uh, in the business. These are lazy companies who basically take advantage of other people's success, and it's bad for consumer. It's bad for the toy business when they do that. I told you we do 100, 120 toys, 2 or 3 take off. The knockoff companies take those two, three, so they don't have to spend money on 90 or 100 more and copy it. And knockoffs usually go away in a year or 2 years, but that's very personally annoying to me because toy business takes a long way to do this. You come up with a story, then you have fabulous, incredible designers that come up, use their imagination, come up with the drawing of the concept. Then we test it, then we make a prototype, then we do sculpting, then we do packaging, then we do entertainment. So it takes a village to make a toy. It really takes a village to make it. And we have been successful at it because we take risks. We are not afraid to take risks. When I say risk in trying new things and developing new ideas and products and innovations, and be willing to basically embrace failure. I sometimes I teach at universities in Southern California entrepreneurship, and as a volunteer. The first thing I write on the whiteboard is that if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to embrace failure, and that's a key thing to me to really make it happen as an entrepreneur, whether it's toy business or something else.
So you've also like remained as a privately owned toy company.
Yes,
I think you're now the largest of its kind that's privately owned.
but
Why did you want to have it like that?
but we are largest in the Americas, not the world. I think Lego is the largest in the world, but and I am really when people tell me who do you look up to, I look at Lego, what they have done, and how they have kept that business privately held. And the reason we kept it private is that, life is short. I don't want to sit in meetings, answer to shareholders, run the business from quarter to quarter. That's, toy business or any business is not quarter to quarter, especially toy business, which is a fashion business. And if you become public, you need to do everything you can, cut costs, cheat, lie to make your quarter so your stock price doesn't come down. And I don't have a patience for that. And then the other issue is that I'm very outspoken. And in order to be CEO of a public company, you need to be a politician and have a big ability to lie, which I can.
That's an interesting answer.
Yeah.
So, you decided to do an acquisition of Little Tikes,
Yes.
and then that turned into a whole nother thing. Why did you feel like you needed to acquire them?
I look at businesses as brands, not a product. And Little Tikes been around now 60 years. When I bought Little Tikes in 2006, God, it's what, 20 years ago? Yeah, they were a 40-year-old company. They were iconic. Cozy Coupe. I bet you had a Cozy Coupe when you were a kid. My son had a Cozy Coupe. So Little Tikes, which had started by an incredible entrepreneur named Tom Murdoch, was sold. He sold it to Newer Rubbermaid. And Newer Rubbermaid, a public company, to your earlier question, looked at Little Tikes as plastic by the pound. They didn't look at the brand value. Uh, so they were looking at this, and toy business is seasonal. And they said, oh my God, we cannot have a factory running kind of idle or 10, 15% capacity all year. And then all of a sudden in fourth quarter, you go to 70% and then go back down. So they basically ignored Little Tikes. They wanted to get rid of out of their books fast. And they didn't make one new product, which is crazy. One new product in 3 years. So I was called by a broker from Morgan Stanley, and I said, "Are you interested to buy Little Tikes?" And we were riding high with Bratz, and I said, "Yeah, at the right price, I'm interested." So the first time, I think they said something about the crazy number, $300 million something. I said, "No, if the price is right, call me. It's not the company that's been made one new toy. I love the brand, but it's not worth $300 million." So then, one day they called me. I was on vacation, this broker, and he says, "Well, Newer Rubbermaid is very, very uh, now interested to basically sell Little Tikes." And so I said, "What does it take?" He says, "Make an offer." I said, "Okay, I'll buy it for $120 million." And he hung up. He called me back, and he says, "They said they will accept it." I said, "Okay, great." Right, right. LOI, and I was on a boat on vacation with my family, and faxed it to me. I signed it, and he did. And then he called me. He says, "Isaac, I just talked to them, and they said you're fake." I said, "Why?" He said, how can you make an offer to buy a company you haven't even seen and know the due diligence, etc.? I said, "You know what? I want to buy it for the brand. Then I know what to do with it. But not the financial loss, etc." He says, "Okay, they are skeptical of these, and at least can you come to Ohio and see it?" I said, "Okay." When I came back, I went to Ohio, and I went and saw the company, the factory. I think Little Tikes is the largest standing toy factory still in America. And I talked to the people who work at Toys at Little Tikes, because my goal was to shut down the factory in Ohio, move it to China or Mexico, because to make money. And when I talked to these employees at Little Tikes, and I asked them, "How long you been here?" 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. My daughter works here. My granddaughter works here. I couldn't do it. So I gathered everybody the next day and I said, "Look, guys, you're losing money. I'm committed to buying Little Tikes because I believe in the future and the brand. And I was going to shut down this factory and move it to China and Mexico. But now that I have seen you, I can't do it. I'm going to give you 2 years to break even." and we're going to make 100 new products. They hadn't made one in 3 years. So we did that year 100 new products. We worked our ass off to make it happen. And the reason I wanted to have 100 new products was to show at Toy Fair to retailers that there is a new sheriff in town, and we are committed to Little Tikes and its brand. And here's the proof: 100 new products, and it took off. And that factory is still there, and Little Tikes is the bedrock of our company, frankly, because it's been around for 60 years. And it's not like Bratz or LOL that goes to the infinity and beyond. It's a stable seasonal business, and it's very successful. Frankly, if I hadn't bought Little Tikes, I would not succeed under the attack of Mattel on Bratz, because Little Tikes was a steady stream of income that kept the company going while I was fighting them in growth. So I'm very proud and fond of Little Tikes.
Wow, that's incredible. So you basically said we'll make 100 products, and like the goal was to launch a couple of those, and like because you made 100, you'd get to that point.
At that time I was younger and more brash, and I said, okay, at first I wanted to impress everybody. Of course, I knew nobody's going to buy 100 new products, but at least if I got 10% of that, 10 products out, and I did, on the retail shelves, that was basically getting my head above the water, and we start making some profit. So that was a good. Yes, but the reason I did 100 was I really wanted to impress the retail environment and the industry that we are committed to Little Tikes.
And just the last question I have, Isaac, what do you want to accomplish now? Like, what's kind of your big picture vision for your life? What are some of the goals you have at this point?
The very, very good question. I have been fortunate. I have lived the American dream. I don't think I would have had this success in any other country. And this is a country that lets you live the American dream. You can, if you're persistent and work hard and believe in your vision and passion, you're going to succeed. But now at this stage of my life, I want to give back. And frankly, my biggest goal is for children, and especially children's mental health. To me, it's very important. We're going through very tough times around the world, and our children are the future of next generation and this planet. And it's my commitment to children. I'm very involved with charities that involve children. I'm a big supporter of Children's Hospital, USC Children Mental Health Organization, and Hope Foundation, City of Hope, a lot of other things. But mostly my goal is to drive the imagination and good health of the children for the future of our planet.
Well, I think that's an incredible goal to have, and it's definitely something so important today. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this, Isaac. I think you've had such an amazing journey so far, and I know your work's been impactful to millions and millions of people, brought them a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, and just being so upfront about what it really takes to make that happen is incredibly valuable to other entrepreneurs. So I wish you much success and appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.